Good evening. You have been enjoying some incredible testimonies from the members of New Psalmists who've been sharing their journeys, sharing how they have managed, how they've overcome, how they've fought all of the temptations that may have come their way when life threw them curveballs. They've all shared their stories about what it meant for them and what it takes for them not to quit. Well, tonight's no different. Tonight we'll hear from Brother Andre Brown Jr., who will share his story of what his journey was and how he's learned to live with and manage the issue he has and all that it takes for him not to quit.
My name is Andre Brown Jr., and this is my story of how I did not quit. Wow, where do I start? I've always had issues with my weight, throughout my life. Making sure that I was healthy, trying to, whether it was through high school, college, whatever. And as I got older and became involved with food and cooking food and really enjoying food, it really became something that was, again, always a challenge for me, making sure that I was doing the right things. I don't want to necessarily say that I got to the point where I did quit or gave up, but I reached a point where nothing seemed to work. Nothing seemed to work in helping me achieve the health goals or the healthy lifestyle that I knew I needed to have. Probably about 10, 12 years ago, I found a program that was very successful, was very easy to follow, and it allowed me to achieve, I'd say, a moderate level of success. And I say moderate because it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't maintainable. Throughout that process, I actually lost over 100 pounds. But because it was not something that I could maintain for my life and for lifelong success, the pounds slowly crept back up. And going through that process, I said, this is never going to go away. It's something that I'm never going to get away from. And I feared that this was always going to be my plight. So like I said, I don't feel like I really gave up, but I had kind of in my mind that this is how I'm always going to be and kind of accepted it. So fast forward to 2020, dealing with the pandemic, work stress, life stress, all of those things. I want to tell you about the situation that occurred Christmas of 2020. So sitting at the dining room table, I've cooked dinner, family is there, we're eating, we're playing games, and the last thing that I recall before the incident was someone told a joke and it was extremely funny. And I went to double over in laughter. And the next thing I remember, I'm still sitting in my chair, my mother, my wife, my daughter, they're all standing over me saying, Andre, are you okay? Are you okay? I didn't realize what had happened, but I had passed out. So we're sitting there. Of course, my wife, Kim, she's hysterical. She's like, we got to call the paramedics. We got to call the paramedics. And I'm saying, I'm fine. As men, we want to just smooth things over, figure, let's move on to the next thing. My mother put her watch on me to kind of see what my heart rate was at, and it wouldn't register. It said it was too high. Of course, now I'm not sweating, I'm not out of breath or anything. I do recognize I had passed out, but that was the extent of it for me, or so I thought. Because it would not register, they did call the paramedics. So the paramedics come, and when she attaches the apparatus and everything to me, I want to say my heart rate was around 170, 160, somewhere in that range. Now, like I said, I'm not sweating. Not experiencing shortness of breath or anything. I don't feel anything abnormal. She continues to test, and my heart rate is going faster and faster. It gets up to the point where it's around 190, and she says, if I can't get your heart rate down, I'm gonna have to take you to the emergency room. So I'm agreeable or accepting because, again, I can look in my daughter's face, I can look in my son's face. I don't want them to be fearful or upset. So I'm being very agreeable to whatever is being asked of me at the moment. So we go to the hospital, get all set up, and mindful. This is during COVID, so you can't have guests. Everything. A lot of precautions are being taken in terms of going into that type of environment. So as I'm in the room, the doctor starts to ask me, well, have you ever had history of AFib before, atrial fibrillation? And the whole mood I had kind of went down because probably about a year and a half before that, through a visit that I had established with my primary care, shout out to Dr. Theo Stevens, I had been diagnosed with AFib, had started the process of taking medication, but I didn't see any change. I didn't see where it was helping me, so I stopped taking it. I know, red flag, hammer on the head, wrong thing to do. But I really thank God because he did not allow that situation, me not taking the medication, to cause me any further harm than what has happened. So that event in Christmas was really an eye-opener for me. So fast forward, continue on with that. He's like, yeah, you do have an issue with AFib. We're going to give you some medication to kind of see if we can get your heart rate down. If that doesn't work, we have a couple of procedures that we can, do to kind of get you back in what they call a sinus rhythm. So I'm in the hospital for a couple of days. I'm emailing people at work, and they're like, why are you in the hospital? So having to kind of explain, what was going on there. Of course, my wife was not happy when, she heard the story that I had stopped taking the medication. She was like, well, now I have to go to every doctor's appointment with you. And I said, no, you don't, but I realize the importance now. So I definitely became more judicious with what medication I need to take. What are my doctor's appointments, and really became cognizant of my health, all aspects of my health. So the doctor said, look, AFib is the type of thing where it will fight to come back. So if you don't want it to come back, you have to fight against it. So the easiest thing you can do, or the first thing you can do, is work on your weight. Lose the weight. That will make the biggest impact before we go into any further procedures or anything to ensure that it doesn't come back. So I tried doing just normal eating better, so to speak, but that didn't quite get me the results that I knew he was looking for. His goal was, he said, 30 to 40 pounds. Let's start with that. I want to say it was around March of 2021 when a friend of ours who had been in my wedding, I saw she had been going through this weight loss journey and had lost a significant amount of weight. And she shared she was working with a nutritionist. So I took the plunge, reached out to him, and began a relationship with One Priority Nutrition, Brandon Savoy, to really help me get a handle on being an active person and really eating right. Around this time, I had been watching podcasts, motivational things, trying to help me stay positive and encouraged throughout the process. And I heard somebody say something. It was a father. He was talking about his relationship with his children. And he said, my goal in life, in everything that I do, is to be an active and engaged grandfather. And that really resonated with me. Not that my children are ready to have grandkids yet, but I don't want to be, when that time comes, I didn't want to be that grandfather, or even father for that matter, who couldn't do things, who was always sitting in the chair in the living room because that was his space. I wanted to be involved. I wanted to be active because that was the type of relationship I had with my father. And I wanted my kids and my grandkids to have the same thing. So I really committed to all the things that my nutritionist was asking me to do. The walking, and it was simple. It was diet and it was walking. Now, did I do exactly what he asked? No, because I still had in my mind my own way. Like, I can still do this my own way. So I started to see some results, but then I plateaued. And that's when he started saying, well, send me pictures of the food that you're eating. Show me what you're doing when you're at the gym. And then that's when I had to kind of come clean and say, yeah, well, I'm still kind of doing things my own way. He said, do what I've asked. If you do what I've asked, you'll see the results. And that's when I the second commitment to really following the commands. I kind of attribute it to, listening to what God says and really being obedient to that. I had to kind of do the same thing with this. I grew up in the church, so it has always been a part of my life and my existence. So, very much like you have breakfast, you have lunch and dinner, you go to church on Sundays. So I never really felt that that experience where people have led a life outside of church and God has revealed this amazing thing to them that has caused them to change their life. It's always been a part of who I am and what I do. But discipleship allowed me to make a connection with a group of brothers that I have a great relationship with. We do and support each other in everything that comes up throughout our lives. But it also allowed me to develop a more in-depth relationship with Christ in terms of his influence in my life and to me, kind of the requirement that we have to demonstrate that life to others. So in terms of my weight loss journey and all of that, I don't attribute it to anything that I've done per se, that it is not a me, I pulled myself up, I did this all myself. It really is, quite honestly, the support of my family. Not suggesting that we go out and eat every weekend because they know I need to kind of stick to a regimen. The support of my nutritionist, and he is very straightforward. And I can't tell you how many times I have said before I would check in with him, if he don't say the right thing this weekend, I'm going to quit. This is going to be the last week that I go through. But the thought comes back to my mind, you have a goal. You have a goal, you have an obligation, you have a responsibility to your family, to all of the people that look up to you. So you've got to push forward. You got to push through on this. One of the scriptures that kind of kept me grounded and on target during this time was Romans 12:2, and the fact that it kind of talks about the renewing of your mind, and that really being extremely important. You tell yourself what you can and cannot do. Your body doesn't. The mind is an extremely powerful tool, and allowing that to kind of be the leading and guiding force. What are you thinking about? What are your thoughts? So, I mentioned before, listening to podcasts, motivational things, trying to always keep encouraging and positive thoughts. That really kind of helped me refocus, recenter. Every time I had a period of time where I felt like I wasn't going to continue on this journey, this was enough. I'd done enough. I've reached the pinnacle. I don't need to do any more. That really helped me kind of keep trudging along, going step by step. So I feel like discipleship kind of gave me that foundation to always recenter, to kind of always come back to, what is your objective? Have you achieved it yet? If not, then let's keep taking the next step. I started going to the gym Monday through Friday, every morning. Whether it was raining outside, cold outside, it became the routine. I adjusted my work schedule where I didn't get to work as early because I had to make that commitment to going to the gym. So as 2021 goes along, the weight's slowly coming off. I'm starting to really see a lot of success. I'm feeling good about myself, feeling good about the interactions that I'm able to have with my family, definitely more enriching experiences. My wife has a love for riding bikes, so this was now something that I could enjoy with her. It really was fun. It really has been a fun experience. So throughout 2021, there have been some, plateaus where things have kind of moved slow, but I haven't given up. I've still stuck with the process, still stuck with the meal plans. I've found a way that kind of answers the issue that I started out with, in terms of, I didn't see how I would ever get past this. I've now found a solution or a process that will work for me long term, that will allow me to have a very enriching life experience with my family, with my coworkers, all of those things. So as of today, I have lost 82 pounds on this journey. Still have some way to go, but very, very happy with the progress that I've made, and definitely want to make sure that I continue on. There are still some things that I'm not very quick to, jump out there and, have these experiences, but going through this really shows that anything you put your mind to and that you don't give up, you go through step by step, you're able to accomplish it.
So tonight, Andre, we heard you tell your story, and yours is an ongoing story. It's an ongoing journey. But I would be remiss if I didn't start with you're hard-headed. You're hard-headed. So we just gonna start there, because you're no different than a lot of men, right? So there's some
Absolutely.
men and there's some women who are watching this, who have men in their households who are like you, like I've been. Mm-hmm. What do you think it was, honestly, that you heard this guidance, these directions, and you're like, man, I'm gonna just do it my way? What you think that was about?
I think there are multiple things. I think that is one of them. That I can fix this. It doesn't take, there is no other path or something else. This pill is gonna fix this. I can do this myself. But you really can't. I really had to come to grips with the fact that it wasn't just gonna go away if I ignored it.
It's not gonna go away. What we are unwilling to confront, we cannot change.
Absolutely.
Right? So we have to address it, the proverbial elephant in the room. Mr. Jimmy, Tip, you all heard Andre's story. What were your thoughts when you watched him tell his story about his journey and battle with his weight journey?
Well, I've known Andre. I've known him for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when I heard the story, I was like, 82 pounds? I didn't see him that big. You know, I said, oh, he must have been eating somebody else's food. But I really enjoyed hearing how he overcame just giving up and continuing not to listen to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
That was more important for me because we, as black men, we hard-headed. Ain't no question about it. You say they're hard-headed, the doctor can say, stop smoking. And we'll say 2 more packs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in your case, it was the heart. It was the weight. It was the diet. And we don't take the advice of other people well, especially other, you know, like, I don't need no nutritionist. All I got to do is eat grapefruit juice. You know, you listen. You did the exercise. You put in the work. Part of the solving the problem is, like you talked about earlier, Tip, you got to do the work.
Yeah.
You know, no results come from just handouts, you know.
Right.
And to lose 82 pounds, man, I am so proud of you.
Right.
That's no small task. That ain't
small
no
feat.
You
Absolutely.
know, you see the commercials come on TV, oh, take this pill at night and watch the belly go away.
Right. Well,
That ain't
flat tummy tea and all of that.
Drink this special tea, this Chinese tea. Nah, man, you got to put the work in. You put the work in.
Yes, sir.
And part of that was listening.
Mm.
See, we don't want to listen, you know.
Yeah.
We hard-headed. You said you hit the nail on the head. Dog. We are hard-headed, man. Wife tell you stop doing something, oh, baby, I got it under control. And,
Tip, what'd you think when you watched Andre tell his story?
So, it's interesting listening to his story because I guess I'm on a weight loss journey myself right now. Last year was an extremely difficult year in my life. I put on a lot of weight and stopped working out. So I think January this year when I went to the doctors, I was at 270. And I said, oh, it was the heaviest I've ever been in my life. And I went to the doctor because I was having a bunch of new health complications that I never experienced before. Blood pressure was spiking at random times and sleep apnea and snoring. And whenever I would lean over my chair, my balance was a little. I said, wait, what's happening here? So I've been losing weight throughout the course of the year. I think now I'm down to 245. And just how paying attention to my weight, my food intake, my portion intake, how that's drastically improved my health. I still have sleep apnea, but my blood pressure is under control. And I just feel, more energized, and I just feel better about myself in general.
Yeah.
And I think just as black men, we need to really pay more attention to our health and stop being as hard-headed and stubborn as we traditionally are. And even with a focus on mental health as well.
what effect did it have on your kids?
Good question.
I would say meaning the incident or me with the journey?
Both of them.
From the transformation from that 82 pounds, and I'm saying, Daddy done lost all this weight. Now he can play with me all day.
So I'll talk about the incident. So the incident for me was impactful because, and I think each of you have kind of touched on it in your stories, who you are and who you are to others. I think we get so caught up in that image of who we are that when there is an inkling of that may not be the truth, or there is some chink in the armor, so to speak, it's like, do I really want them to see me like this? But I think what it really caused was an opportunity for me to now show them resilience. To show them that in the midst of adversity, things maybe not necessarily going the way you want them to be, that you don't give up, you don't quit, you keep going. It may change, it may not be what your plan was, but you still trudge along step by step. It may go slower than you want,
Yeah.
but you still are pursuing that goal.
That's real important.
You know, interestingly though, because you mentioned, you know, you had been seeing your doctor and he, you know, made you aware of a concern, but you stopped taking the medication. And I thought the piece you mentioned that your wife wasn't aware. Talk a little bit about being vulnerable.
So I'm an introvert, if nobody knew. I'm an introvert, my wife's an extrovert. But it was tough. It was really tough. I mean, I think that's really the reason why I never said anything. You know, why I didn't say. Even some of the symptoms that I felt leading up to that event, that Christmas, and all throughout, you know, and I know as men we do this, I downplayed them. It's just this. It's just this. I mean, but the doctor really made it clear at that point when he said, you know, AFib is something that kills people. You know, and it's like the things that I was ignoring could have been fatal.
Wow.
So for me, that really made me realize I could not continue to ignore those things anymore. I won't say it's 100%.
Sure.
You know, in terms of, because when you have practiced something for so long, you know, it's hard to make that transition to being totally different or the totally opposite of that. But it is a process.
Yeah. You know, in terms of practicing, how do you practice openness? Because you said there were things that you didn't share, right? And things you even downplayed. How do you put into practice the idea of being open about what you're dealing with? What's that look like on a daily basis?
So for me, it started with my situation. It started out with talking about it, explaining to my kids, to my wife, to family what I was feeling.
Yeah.
Which was, again, something I wasn't doing before. You know.
You're not alone.
Right. You know, and I will admit, part of it took some prodding from others, them asking questions. You know, like my father would ask, so how does it make you feel? What do you feel? And it did require me to be, like you said, vulnerable to knowing that there was genuine interest and concern, be open to responding to that. Not that I didn't think that it wasn't there before, but I think a part of me before didn't want the interest and concern, because then it would force me to address it.
Yeah.
So by not sharing, it allowed me to keep it inside and quite honestly still not deal with it.
So do you think not sharing is learned behavior or something else?
In some parts, yes.
Oh,
I would say. You know, the male persona of you just gotta keep doing the work. You know, kind of like what Jimmy was talking about earlier with your father. You know, in terms of this is what your responsibility is. This is what you do, as opposed to communicating, being open. Yeah, I would definitely say
they didn't talk back then.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's learned behavior.
Yeah, it's learned behavior. Especially from an old school. Men just tied these bootlaces up and they got back to work.
Yeah.
They were from a different fabric. You know what I mean? So if I had a situation that I wanted to talk to my dad, It was your business is your business, handle your business. It wasn't tell your business. So you weren't sharing your emotion. You better not have no emotions as a black man coming up when I came up, because you were, just definitely something wrong with you, boy.
Yeah.
Go in there and stop doing that.
Yeah.
And don't tell nobody else you did it. So we had secrets.
Yep. And Mr. Jimmy, you hit something on the head, because we have been socialized to keep stuff in as a defense mechanism, right? From the world, because the world is harsh. So we've been socialized as men to keep things in, and in turn, we not only keep things in that might protect us, we keep things in that may hurt us.
Oh, kill us.
Which is what Andre talked about. He kept in something that could have been fatal through a series of situations and learned behavior. But what does this do? You talked about resilience and what it showed for your children. What else does it do in terms of the types of communication you have with your children, because they're watching all of this? So how does it impact that? Talk about how you now communicate with them.
I would say very open. And it's interesting because I feel like I've always had those types of conversations with my children, just because to me, my father was a communicator, in terms of how he would talk. He was a lecturer. He was, not that we wouldn't get, beat or beatings, I don't know if I can say that, but he was also a lecturer. I mean, there were times, and I'll just say, my sister and I used to say, just beat us and get over with. He's gonna sit there and talk to you for 30, 45 minutes about what you did and, what it does. And, I'm like, just give me the beating, okay? Just give it to me. But I've always been very in tune to talking to them about their thought process with things, because I felt like if I could impart that to them, that would allow them to get through situations when I wasn't there to direct them. That they would have a thought process. If this happens, this is how I deal with this. If I'm interacting with this person, this is how I deal with that, because I'm learning this is how you deal with people.
Sure.
So, yeah, I've always kind of had those. So, but like I said, with the AFib, I begin to talk to them more about how it makes me feel, why I may not have wanted to do certain things that I wish I had done or experienced with them. But having really open conversations like that with them.
Yeah. You talked about resilience, and that's not a word that is often discussed. And the ability to keep pushing. All of these brothers have also shared their stories about what it feels like to keep pushing. But health, what we eat is one part of resilience, right? And being able to push through that. But as I understand it, you're also pushing through in some other ways. There's some unfinished business that you didn't give us all of it in your story. But what else are you doing as a matter of pushing through and breaking through some barriers that have been, talking about learned behavior? What's some learning you're doing right now?
So, call me crazy. At 51, I decided to go back to school.
Wow.
Most people don't know, I went to several colleges. I think my transcript has like seven different schools on it, I've had a very successful IT career in the federal government for actually going on 18 years now, but my degree is an AA in professional cooking. So
And cooking.
Right. So
I knew you was trying to take my job.
So I made the decision, my son had graduated from college, my wife had gone back to school, she had graduated. My daughter had challenges because she began her college career during COVID, just before COVID. And I felt like that whole experience, while she is demonstrating that same resilience, it's not the path she had sought for herself. So it really caused me to say, you know what? Me doing this, it really was unfinished business in my mind, something I've always regretted not following through on.
Sure.
And I don't need it. I mean, the reality is where I am right now in my career, I don't need it. But being able to commit to it, focus on it, and feeling like I can always continue to learn, I think is what the driving force is in the process.
Sure.
And it'll be challenging. I mean, I got a new job within the same couple months. I'm starting school. So it is a lot to kind of take on, but you're right. I think it is the perfect way to demonstrate that resilience.
Well, Andre, I want to thank you for taking the time out to be vulnerable with us and the rest of the folks who will watch this about your journey. It like I said when I started, you're not alone. There are many brothers who will watch this. There are families who will say, hey, Dad, let me show you this guy on YouTube who talked about his weight loss journey, because it's something that we deal with. Shout out to your doctor for being knowledgeable and willing to talk to you and provide you with the resources to help you along your journey. So family, you've been watching us for a number of weeks. And tonight you heard Andre talk about his story, and Tip used the word learned behavior. The truth is, in society, many of us learn that quitting is an option. Many of us learn that if it's not going our way, we can walk away. But you've heard these three gentlemen over these past few weeks, and before them you heard three of our female members of our church talk about what it takes to be resilient, what it takes to unlearn those behaviors that would say it's okay to walk away. You've heard us talk about what it takes to stick and stay. You've heard us talk about what it takes to not just go through, but to grow through. All that life will throw at you. With God on your side and with your hand in His, there isn't anything that you can't overcome. The only thing you can't do is quit. We wish you well. We pray your best. Whatever life throws at you, keep the faith and don't quit.
That's why I ain't want that chicken. Oh, I want that chicken box, but just not Monday through Friday.
That's cheap mail day only, huh?
I said it was a young man. I said, "You didn't want no food, man."
Good evening. You have been